because of you all, the fourth largest state in the United States of America, the state of Florida, our governor, Rick Scott, just met with Attorney Parks, Attorney Jackson, and Trayvon's parents, Miss Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin, and said that the prosecutor, Norm Wolfganger, has voluntarily removed himself from the case.
Joining me now from Sanford, Florida, the Reverend Al Sharpton, the host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, and Benjamin Crump, the head attorney for Trayvon Martin's family. Reverend Al, I just want to begin tonight with something personal to you that you shared with everyone watching your show tonight, and then everyone at the rally. Let's listen to that.
I got the news this morning, leaving New York, that my mother had passed. One side of me said to don't come, but the other side of me said my mother raised me to stand up for justice. My mother would have been ashamed of me if I wasn't here tonight. My mother raised me to stand with mothers and daddies like that. And in her name, I'm gonna fight until Zimmerman meets justice in the courtroom.
Reverend Al, I have to tell you, I heard about the passing of your mother this morning, and I thought for sure you wouldn't be going to Florida. And then when I heard you were still going to Florida, I was just amazed, because speaking as someone who lost his mother recently, I can tell you I couldn't have done anything on the day that she died. And when I heard you explain it tonight on your show, and then when I heard you say that at the rally, I completely understood how you could go and why you were there. And I just want to say to you, I'm very sorry for your loss and for your family's loss, and we all know that your mother would be very, very proud of you tonight.
Well, thank you for saying that, Lawrence. I appreciate your condolences. It is very difficult. I don't want to act like it's not. My brothers also, Kenny came with me, and we just have a family that grew up in the movement, and we just feel that this is what she would have wanted us to do.
And Attorney Crump, I want to get to the issue of what the action the governor took tonight. A lot of things happened actually during the rally, as far as we could tell. A new prosecutor has been appointed. The governor says he wants to have a task force look into this after the investigation has been complete. Tell us about this new prosecutor, Angela Corey. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we think it's a step in the right direction, Lawrence, and we think it never would have happened without you and your viewers talking about it, especially not with Reverend Al's leadership and devotion to this cause for justice. But it's a situation, a step in the right direction, but we still don't have an arrest yet. It's more investigating, and you know, you kind of ask, what do we have to investigate? But it's a step in the right direction when the leader of the state says the whole world is looking at our state and we need to get this right. So we are cautiously optimistic tonight. We got to keep the pressure on until we get an arrest.
Reverend Al, we both on this show last night talked to Mr. Bonaparte, the city manager. You did an amazing interview with him tonight. I want to play a little piece of that, beginning with where he explained why Chief Lee has stepped aside.
You once said this was a complete and fair investigation, did you? Or the chief said it?
The chief said it.
Do you now believe this has been a fair investigation?
I believe the Sanford Police Department has done what they could.
But I just raised several contradictions where you have blatant contradictions when what was said by a police officer and what is actually said on tape and what was actually put in police reports. How could that be fair?
It's questionable. Absolutely, it's questionable.
Reverend Al, you asked him if it was fair, and he could not bring himself to use the word fair. He says it's questionable, and it goes to the sense I had of him last night. I felt that we were talking to a decent man who understands how bad this is and is trying to work the city's way out of this.
No, I think there's no question that your judgment there is correct, in my opinion. And I think that that is why I agree with Attorney Crump that what the governor did is a step in the right direction, but we must monitor and stay on it all the way. Because if you have the people at the city level that can't even in a direct way say that this is contradictory, this is false statements, and go ahead and make this arrest, this man should be charged, then you need to take a special prosecutor, because clearly the regular prosecutors here has lost the confidence of the people, and should, because they seem to be afraid to uphold the bar of what is fair and just in the law.
I want to play one more thing that Mr. Bonaparte said in your interview, Reverend Al, which really revealed a lot about the way he thinks about this. He talked about he thinks Chief Lee recognizes that for the well-being of the city he had to step aside. Let's listen to that piece of the interview.
I think Chief Lee recognizes that for the well-being and for what we all want, for justice to be taking place for the murder of Trayvon Martin, he was becoming more of a distraction than needed, and that's why he decided to step aside.
Benjamin Crump, what struck me in there, in the middle of that answer, is what he called the murder of Trayvon Martin. Murder is a legal term. It means something very different from the death or the killing. It's interesting to me that Mr. Bonaparte would use that term.
It certainly is, Lawrence, and it's such a contradiction for what they put on that initial police report. That initial police report had Trayvon Martin as the subject, which would lead you to suggest that Zimmerman was the victim. And so I think it's because we keep calling them out, keep calling to the carpet, he now is finally getting it that this is murder. He killed this kid based on nothing more than his stereotype of him. And that's what's so hard to his parents.
And Attorney Crump, are you worried about what we're going to be able to reconstruct given the amount of evidence that's been lost? We do not have immediate access after the fact of the crime to the gun, to ballistics tests on that gun. We don't have immediate access to the clothing of Zimmerman, which is relevant because they say there's evidence in his clothing of blood and of grass stains, indications of an altercation. I'm just looking at things in the police report that we do not have access to that are made reference to in the report.
You know, Lawrence, you're absolutely right. It is challenging because when you look at what the police did, they came and they took Zimmerman's word as the gospel for what happened, and they didn't do anything objectively to look at maybe, just maybe, Trayvon Martin might be innocent. Just maybe his life might be worth taking a background check on the shooter, doing a drug and alcohol analysis, not letting him walk away with physical evidence on his body after talking to him for a couple of hours, even though he had just shot this unarmed teenager who only had a bag of Skittles.
And Reverend Al, I want to play one more piece of your interview with Mr. Bonaparte, where he talks about his own experience of problems with the police, what he calls walking while black.
I have been found guilty of walking while black. I have been stopped by the police officers, I believe, simply because I was black. I realize that. I have a son, I have grandsons. This is a tragedy. We want to work so it doesn't happen again and that the Martin family gets justice.
Reverend Al, that's the sensibility I think you want at the center of managing things in that city at this time. But do you think that Mr. Bonaparte has been moving too slowly?
I think that the feeling is that he's been moving too slowly and too cautiously, and when he himself sits there and says he's been found guilty of walking while black or being profiled as a black, the question I raise in it is, what are you willing to do about it? Because clearly you're not just talking about a culture, you're talking about a crime. People do not have the right to treat you differently in a criminal manner, whether it be pulling you over if you're a policeman and illegally ticketing you, or whether it goes as far as killing you, as in this case. They do not have that right. And let's not act like people that profile and stereotype just have bad habits. Some of them are criminal.
Benjamin Crump, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And Reverend Al, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Thank you for everything you've done today. It's been a very, very long day for you and for your family. Again, Al, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Coming up next in The Rewrite, the plea to spare the life of an admitted killer, a white teenager who drove his car over a black man deliberately to kill him. His life was saved in a Mississippi court yesterday by the sister of the black man who pled for the life of the killer of her brother.